Hey everyone, welcome back to another Crossing Paths episode. As my wife and I travel the country, one of our favorite things is getting to meet people on the road, particularly other nomads. Recently, while traveling through Alabama, we crossed paths with another nomad who shares his adventures as Traveling Robert. We spent a fun evening hanging out and got to ask him a few questions about his experiences on the road. Robert, thanks for joining us today. We've been having a great evening hanging out here. We're hanging out here in Alabama today. What brings you to Alabama?
Well, I was doing this road trip and, getting out of Florida, I went to Georgia. I visited my wife's family. They live in the Atlanta area. Then went to the Georgia mountains, which is one of my favorite areas. And then, cut west to Alabama. And Alabama is one of those states that I've driven through so many times that I never actually managed to stop here for any significant time. And I said, this time I'm going to do it. And it's been great. Because I went to the Space and Rocket Center and in Huntsville. I went to Muscle Shoals where they have their famous recording studio, and now I'm here with you guys.
Excellent! I'm a huge space fan. How was the Space and Rocket Center?
Yeah, there you go. I even got a T-shirt to prove it. It was great. It's because they have all the history of the I guess the golden era of the American space program when we went to the moon, and they have the Saturn rocket there, and they actually have a mock-up of the space station where you can walk inside the space station and actually see how it looks like inside.
That sounds like a good video. I think we're going to have to check that out.
Yeah, definitely.
So how did you come to be RVing? How did you come to be Traveling Robert?
Oh, well, Traveling Robert RVing, that's a long question, but RVing, it must have been 10 years ago, my brother-in-law rented an RV, a Cruise America, and I'm like, that's a comfortable way to travel, and then we tried it out some years back, and we really liked it, and one day I was like, you only live once, let's get an RV, and I mean, we were thinking of full-timing sometime in the far future, but we wanted to try it, see how it was, and we bought this small trailer, and the main premise was that I could tow it with my existing vehicle and it fit in my driveway. So we got a small towable micro mini by Winnebago 1706. It's 19 foot long, and so far it's been a great adventure. We've rediscovered Florida in a major way, and I've traveled to a lot of places for sure.
You say you're heading back to Florida. Is Florida home?
Florida is home, yeah. We live in Miami, been living there for 30 years. And eventually I want to move a little further north because Miami's so far away from everything. It's close to the Keys. That's the one positive thing. But if you want to travel anywhere, it's just
Florida's a long state.
Yeah, man.
You said you've rediscovered Florida. What have you discovered in Florida?
Well, this is the thing, because we always flew somewhere but being in South Florida, we were trapped in that area if we wanted to be weekenders. So we had never been to the Everglades, living in Miami, and we had been to the Keys, but just like to party or so. We've discovered a lot of places that I didn't know about. The Southwest Florida area, Fort Myers, and the Everglades.
We've noticed this too. That when we've traveled so much around the country, we find all these amazing places, and then we'll go visit where we used to live, and we'll be like, "Oh wow, we didn't realize that was over here or that was over here." But I think you take for granted what you have in your backyard.
Mm-hmm.
So you've seen most of the country. What have you seen? And I guess what are your goals in your travels?
Well, eventually, I'm getting close to that age. I want to do the lower 48 before I turn 48, and I've done probably 30-ish around there. So I have like 20 to go. But well, yeah, I did the Southwest last year. I did one long road trip to Chicago, and this past fall I did the Northeast. I had a breakdown on the road, so I couldn't see everything that I wanted to see. But Vermont and New Hampshire. Sorry, we didn't get to see them, but some other time.
It happens. But
that's for sure. We haven't made it to the Northeast, yes, but I've heard it's beautiful. Did you have a good time there?
It is beautiful. We visited Maine and Acadia National Park, and that was great. And we also, another premise of this trip, I wanted to visit the big cities of the Northeast. So I tried to find RV parking close to like Philadelphia, New York, Boston, and that was great too, because I like to visit the big cities, and some of them are very historic. And New York is New York, of course. There's no other way to put it. So
traveling into the big cities, what are you traveling then? What kind of RV are you traveling?
Well, we have a Winnebago towable, a short one, so it's very maneuverable in that sense. And we were able to, for example, park in Liberty Harbor, right next to New York City.
Wow.
We parked at this place in Philadelphia, which is like 10 minutes away from like the main historic sites and downtown. In Boston, we weren't so lucky, but we still were able to visit. My main thing is the YouTube channel, Traveling Robert. And I also have travelingrobert.com, the blog, which I don't update as often as I should, but it's there, and it also has links to all my other stuff. I do the Living the RV Dream podcast as well. And,
tell us more about that podcast and how you came to run it.
Well, it was almost 2 years ago, but a year and a half ago, John and Kathy Huggins used to run that podcast, and they still run the website Living the RV Dream. And John called me and said, we are not traveling full time anymore, and we need someone to continue with the podcast. And I said, yeah, I'm honored, and I've been doing it ever since. And it's a lot of fun because it's a different format. It's in a way it's more challenging because you have to convey everything with words. And I'm the guy who always has the video camera in his hand, and it's in a way it's much easier to show with images than do everything with words.
Neat.
So how did you get into podcasts and YouTube? Did something in your background prepare you for that, or is that something that you always wanted to do?
Well, I always wanted to do since I was a child. As soon as we were able to afford a camcorder, I begged my mom to buy me one. And when I was a teenager, I was editing with 2 VHS machines, even back then. And I've always in fact, I did study video production in school. I never quite finished the bachelor's, but I did study that, and it's always been my passion to tell stories through video, through images.
So you're traveling, you're doing the YouTube and the podcast thing, and you're loving it. Has there been a place that you have particularly fallen in love with, or do you
No, that's a hard question, but the one place, and I didn't visit it originally with the RV, but it's the one place that you're like, wow, is the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
And you cannot photograph it or take video of that, at least not with current technology. You cannot reproduce the experience of actually looking at the South Rim from Mather Point for the first time.
I would agree with that. Traveling on the road as long as you have you experienced any, I guess, what's been the hardest thing about traveling for you? Have you had any issues on the road?
Well, I've had a couple. I've had my flat tire like everybody else, of course. But the worst was breaking down on the road. And that was a negative experience, but at the same time, it was a very positive experience. It was a negative experience in the sense that I was stranded in North Carolina in the path of Hurricane Florence, and
oh my,
yeah, and but then again I reached out to the community, and everybody was so helpful. There was this guy that he offered me his home he had full hookups, so but I had no way to tow my trailer, so his friend he reached out to his friend, and they towed my RV to his home, and he let me stay there overnight, and eventually the company responsible for the breakdown, they rented me a truck, but it was a stressful couple of days, but it was good to feel the warmth and the welcoming of now friends for life in North Carolina, for sure.
I think a lot of people that we meet, a lot of people in our travels or people that outside of this community seem to look at this and go like, oh, it seems so scary to travel on the road and like that. Mm-hmm. But we've found that the community in general tends to be good and warm people.
Yes, and the world is not as scary a place as you see on the news, Mm-hmm. And sometimes you may stop at a sketchy Walmart, and if it looks sketchy, move somewhere else. You have wheels,
Common sense, right?
Yeah.
On the flip side, what has been the best thing about RVing for you?
It's in general to be able to carry your home with you wherever you go. It's so much comfortable to have your your own, you don't have to be packing bags and going from hotel to hotel. You have your own toilet, you have your own shower, your own kitchen, and that to me is the best thing about RVing.
I totally get it. Having your home on your back.
Yeah.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Well, Robert, it's been great chatting with you tonight. We've had an awesome time. Thanks for coming and parking next to us for a day.
Yes, we're actually neighbors. Yeah,
we are neighbors temporarily. It's been great. We've had a great time hanging out tonight, and hopefully we'll see you down the road.
Definitely looking forward to that.
Thanks for joining us as we chatted with Robert. Be sure to check out his YouTube channel, Traveling Robert, and at travelingrobert.com. He shares really great, inspirational, informational videos about his travels across the U.S. Also tune in to his Living the RV Dream podcast, where he interviews other travelers and talks all things RVing. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you all next time.